So here are some of the things that you can do that will actually hurt a narcissist. So number one is ask for proof. Actually demand, hold them to account for things. The thing is that a lot of times the way the relationship has gone is you've kind of allowed them to get away with things because you didn't want to rock the boat. You've kind of gone along to get along. And so you've created a pattern and they're sort of used to that pattern. And so you're starting to create a new pattern. They're going to want you to be punished for that initially, but that's okay. You just have to start standing up for yourself a little bit. So number one is just start asking for proof when they lie or when they do things. Just say no. That's number one. Number two is a similar kind of thing. You start challenging things that they say. No, that's not how that went. Or no, that's not what you said. Or no, that's not what I said. So that's number two, challenging things that they say. Number three is creating boundaries and then holding them to them. So you can create boundaries for yourself by changing your passwords, changing your logins, changing your locks if you're allowed to at a certain point in time. They've moved out, you are not allowed to come back into my house, or if you're splitting up a business, you can change the logins to your accounts or something like that. I mean, it depends on whatever your situation is, but you can start to create boundaries for yourself. I know, in my situation, I had a business, situation where I started to create boundaries for myself, and it really definitely helped. I started to block, certain people on social media. Get that toxicity out of your space. You want to clear the fumes, clear the air. You don't want to breathe that stuff in anymore. You don't want to have to look at it. It doesn't help you. And they're sending you texts and those are toxic and you're not sure what to say and you're not sure how to hold them to those boundaries. I definitely have a video on that. It's called Kick-Ass Comebacks to Narcissist Texts. You can check that out if you'd like as well. Lots of really great stuff in there. Okay, so that's number three. Number four is you can create choices for them and hold them to those choices. And it helps you as well. So kind of another way for you to have a boundary for yourself. You can do this or you can do this. And that will actually start to hurt them as you're saying, no, this is it or this is it. That's it. That's number four. Number five, this will definitely start to hurt them, is exposing them to people they respect. This is a way, by the way, to start creating some leverage as well, is threatening to expose them to somebody that they respect, threatening to expose them to the judge, threatening to expose them to the mediator, threatening to expose them to employer, employee, something like that. That's a great form of potential leverage. They certainly don't want that. And that's all part of my SLAY methodology as well. Number six is similar, and that is exposing them to a new form of supply, especially when your relationship is starting to come to an end. They're going to be slithering off and looking for a new form of supply. They need to have as much supply as possible. So when you're cutting off your supply source, they will go off and start looking for a new form of supply. So if you start to potentially threaten to expose them to a new form of supply, that will definitely hurt that narcissist forever. They will hate that. That is number six. And hey, if you are so ready to expose them, give me an expose them in the comments. And this is all, by the way, a way to ethically manipulate the manipulator, which is what I talk about as far as how to create strategy. And it's, part of my SLAY methodology, strategy, leverage, anticipate, and focusing on you. That is how you powerfully negotiate with narcissists. All right, that's number 6. You ready for number 7? Number 7 is one of my favorites, by the way. This is how I kind of started down the path of freeing myself from narcissists, my own personal self, and that is not taking the bait. You know, you kind of see it. This is when you start to know you're becoming free, because you start to see it dangling there, and you don't take it. Like, they start to say things to you that normally in the past you would have been triggered, where they say that thing in the past you would have been like, you say what to me? You think that? What? You know that? And you just go, hater's gonna hate. You don't take the bait. You just don't. You just see it and you go, okay, whatever, and move on. That's so good. That will totally hurt them. Totally hurt them. And you know what number 8 is. You guys know what it is. It's moving on. Ease on down the road. Easing on down the road. You moving on, rear view mirror, and you don't even look back. I like to say wiping them from the CPU of your life, like they never existed. That's my fave. Like, you don't even remember their name. Who? What? I don't even know that person. That's the one. That's the best one. That will definitely hurt them or Evs.
So let's talk about the words that narcissists hate. They're usually the ones that are trying to get you. And if you want to know about the narcissist favorite sayings, check out my video on the narcissist favorite sayings. They have their own little collection of things that they love to say to drive you insane, to make you feel small, to devalue you, to make you feel like you shouldn't even be a speck of dust. I mean, I've had so many people say to me, I think he or she wants me to actually kill myself. But that is not true, because then there would go their source of supply. So basically, they love getting the supply, that narcissistic supply, that thing that feeds their ego. They want to get it from as many sources as they possibly can. And if you want to know more about narcissistic supply, check out my video on narcissistic supply, where I actually define the whole thing. But basically, what they're trying to do is make them feel more powerful over you by controlling you and driving you crazy. So, they bring you in with love bombing, and they get you going, and they make you think they're so wonderful and so perfect, because they're really, really charismatic, and they're terrific at making that you think that they are perfect in some way, whether it's in a business setting or a relationship setting. They come on with this charismatic, I'm so perfect for you way of being, and maybe even offer to do all kinds of things for you. And they might even do 1 or 2 things for you in the beginning. A lot of it is offering and future faking and all that sort of thing. And if you want to know more about future faking, check out my video on future faking as well. What can you do to actually get their goat, like actually annoy the crap out of them? So here are some words that narcissists absolutely hate. Number 1 is any kind of praise or any kind of adulation or respect or anything about anyone else. They really cannot take that. Even if you just say, wow, I really admire that person, they're really good at this. Or even if you just compliment them in some way, they're really great in business. Or I like their house. Somehow any kind of compliment about someone else becomes something about them. It becomes something that irritates them, that bothers them in some way, that maybe you like them better, or you think more highly of them than you think of them. And so therefore it becomes a threat to them in some way. So any kind of nice words about somebody other than them is a problem. Number 2 is, that's not true. If you just literally say, I think you're lying, then they hate that, especially if you have proof that they're lying or that you know that they're not telling the truth. I mean, you could literally show them the proof right in front of their face, and they will go right to projection or denial or all those other kinds of things. And definitely check out my video on what happens when you catch a narcissist in a lie. There's several different things that they normally do, but they really, really hate it if you just simply say, and you just say it factually. You don't have to say it with emotion or anger or anything like that. You can just say it as if you're like reporting the news, like that's just not true. So that's number 2. Number 3 is I will not. In other words, I will not go with you. I will not do that thing that you want. I will not go along with your plan to defraud somebody or whatever it is. I had a narcissistic client one time who used to say to me, Rebecca, you're really going to be lonely in heaven by yourself. And you like to try to goad me into doing something that I didn't want to do. No, I just said, no, I will not do that. So that's number 3 is I will not. All right, number 4 is similar, which is I cannot. Like literally, I can't do that. I can't do that right now. I can't do that ever. I'm not physically able. I'm not emotionally able. I'm not spiritually able. I'm not able. I just cannot help you in whatever way it is that you want me to do. And they don't like that. I cannot, I will not happening. They don't want to hear that. And the next one is you lost. I mean, even if it's just playing a game or something and they happen to lose, you lost. They don't want to hear you lost. Even if they did lose, they don't want to hear about that. So, you can't actually say, because they're going to have all kinds of reasons why, maybe it looks like they lost, but they didn't actually lose. Namely, probably because you cheated or something happened that caused them to, make it look like they lost, even though they definitely did win. And if you are so ready to be the winner, give me an I win in the comments. Okay, the next one is you're wrong. So, again, even if they are wrong and you give them proof of it, I mean, you could be showing them something on your phone or showing them a piece of paper or something that actually proves to them that they are wrong. They're never going to admit that they were wrong. And so for those of you who are dealing with a narcissist, don't waste your breath trying to prove them wrong, because they're never going to admit to it. The words that sound something like, oh my gosh, you are totally right. I'm 100% wrong. I am so sorry. You totally didn't deserve that behavior. I am terrible. You think that you're ever going to hear those words? No. I mean, you're better off waiting for goldfish to fly, or, the moon to be made out of green cheese, or whatever it is. I mean, anything is more possible than that. I mean, they're really not going to do that. So, you just have to believe that, karma will win out. You use the tactics that I teach you on how to win in other ways, creating your strategy and your leverage and all of the things that I teach you. And you will have to prove them wrong in a different way, because, just by simply saying you're wrong, they hate that, and that you're not going to get anywhere with it. The next one is, I don't care. I mean, what is worse to a narcissist? You think that being mean to a narcissist is the worst thing, or fighting back against them is the worst thing? Actually, no. The worst thing to a narcissist is that you are completely apathetic, that you just seriously don't care at all. I mean, when you can get to a point where someday maybe you don't even remember that narcissist's name, or what they look like, or what they did to you, or anything like that, that's actually the best revenge on a narcissist, because they hate that. They don't want to be irrelevant. They'd rather be in your face and having you complain about them and think that they're a horrible person than be completely irrelevant. So they absolutely hate the words, I don't care. Okay, so the next one is I'm busy, which actually is very closely related to the ninth one, which is not now. So I'm busy or not now, meaning I can't be with you right now. I can't do what you want right now. I will not do what you want right now, or maybe ever. And they really don't want to hear that. I mean, so with I'm busy or not now, they expect you to move mountains and drop everything for them right now. Or you know, they'll just walk right into your office or walk right into your house and expect and demand to have attention drawn upon them immediately. Or maybe they walk into a restaurant and they expect the best table right away. You know, and if people don't immediately all, you know, flock to giving them what it is that they want, then they actually are, you know, personally affronted. And you know, with narcissists, you're either for them or against them. And so if they don't perceive you to be 100% for them and giving you every minute of attention, every second of the day, immediately when they want it, then obviously you're against them, right? So that brings me to the last one, which is the word that they hate the most, which is no, in any way, shape, or form. Narcissists have no boundaries. They don't think that they should have any boundaries. They feel entitled. And so, you know, if you say the word no in any way, shape, or form, it is a personal affront to them. They are personally triggered. That narcissistic injury gets triggered, and there comes out flying the narcissistic rage, and hell hath no fury like a narcissist scorned. So anyway, those are the 10 phrases that narcissists hate the most. And when you are going to negotiate with them, you should keep those in the back of your mind and either use them strategically or don't use them at all, depending on what it is that you want to accomplish.
Okay, so that narcissist has hurt you so many times. How about you know what hurts the narcissist the most for a change? And this is really important because this really has so much to do with how to powerfully negotiate with narcissists. And this is something that I teach all the time. This is something that I really, really share in my negotiation courses and in my training. So this is the critical piece. And by the way, you need to watch till the end because the ending is going to absolutely shock you. All right. So the one thing they really don't want more than anything is they don't want to be exposed. There's different levels of things for narcissists. They don't want to be exposed, meaning they want to look good at all times. They don't want to be exposed. So one of the main things that could really hurt a narcissist is criticism in front of people they respect. And this could come in a lot of different forms. So making them look bad in front of others, criticizing their intelligence, criticizing their looks, their success. You could be out to dinner. You could say something so benign, you know, like we were out at a gas station and he wasn't pumping the gas himself or something like that. You know, I don't know. I mean, I'm just totally making something up. This isn't something that ever happened to me in my real life, just so you know. And the husband could like go flipping out over that. I mean, something that you wouldn't even think wouldn't even be a thing. He didn't drink all of his coffee. I mean, anything. And all of a sudden, like, that's a huge thing. You just never know what could set them off sometimes because sometimes I always joke that narcissists hear tones like dogs hear whistles. I mean, sometimes you could say something to them and they go, oh, you know, you said something to me in a very sarcastic way. And, you know, I didn't say anything, but they hear that as a criticism. Sometimes they take things in a way that's a criticism that's not even a criticism, and they're very easily slighted. They don't like that. Sometimes it's just even sharing personal information about them with other people. They perceive to be personal. They don't like that. Sometimes it's having an achievement invalidated. They don't like that. There's a lot of different things, but if they are criticized in front of people in a certain way, they definitely don't like that. And so when you're going to negotiate with them, certainly any kind of potential exposure is going to be a great way to create leverage. In my SLAY methodology, which is strategy, leverage, anticipate, and focusing on you, I talk a lot about how to create that strategy, that leverage. And leverage is oftentimes tied up in that potential exposure because they really don't want to be criticized. They really don't want to be exposed. In my video, How to Make a Narcissist Panic, I talk about how to make a narcissist panic. And you can definitely check that out if you'd like. They definitely do not want to be exposed. So that is one thing where you could really hurt that narcissist. Okay. Number one, criticism in front of people they respect. All right. Number two, it could even be more in a private setting, but being ignored or being told no. Any kind of thing where you're ignoring the narcissist. And by the way, this is one of those things, good for the goose, not good for the gander, or, gander, goose, whatever. Who's ghosting all the time? Yeah, narcissists have no problem doing that to you, but definitely can't ignore them. I mean, they will flip out if you ignore them or tell them no, or just any kind of thing where they feel like they're not in control. They don't like that. Or if you tell them they're not good enough or they're worthless or anything like that, of course, they don't like that. And who likes that anyway? I mean, obviously, but they really don't like that. I mean, if you tell somebody who has a strong sense of self that they're not good enough, that they're not worthless or something like that, they might go, okay, whatever. But if you tell a narcissist that, they might get extremely defensive. They may not like that at all. You really don't want to do that sort of thing, even private with a narcissist. They can projection, deflection, especially if they can be abusive or something like that. You really have to be careful about that as well. And if any of this is resonating with you guys so far, give me a totally in the comments or tell me what you guys have seen so far as what hurts the narcissist the most. Okay, so those are the first two. Now I'm going to unveil what I told you is, I think, going to shock some of you. This is not what you normally would think of when it comes to narcissists, but it's true. And I've told you guys many times that the narcissist is this most scared little person on the planet, deep down inside. And so the last one, the thing that scares them the most, the thing that would hurt them the most, number 3, is being abandoned. Yep. The narcissist is really, really afraid of being abandoned, and that would hurt them the most. But let me tell you, you cannot save them. And staying with them will absolutely suck your soul. It will drain the life out of you. Believe me, I know. And I was never with a narcissist in a romantic situation. My situation was, I was in a business situation, and then we have one in our family, my husband and I. And there's a reason they're called energy vampires, okay, guys? You can't expect that they will be rehabilitated. You empaths out there, I see you out there. You think you can save them, and you cannot. No, you can't. You can't fix what's broken. Something happened deep down inside in them a long time ago. You can't fix it. You can't fill that void. It's a hole that cannot be filled. They have a fear of being abandoned. That will hurt the narcissist the most. You can't fix that. Okay. I've seen narcissists actually be hurt. I know you don't think that they can actually be hurt, but they actually can. And I've seen it happen. And really, it comes down to this. They don't want to be exposed, for one thing, but I'm going to boil it down to basically 3 things here for you. Okay. So the bottom line is they want to maintain control. They want to maintain control all the way till the end, and they'll do whatever they can to maintain control. And there's these various levels. And as you are sort of slipping out of their hands, they'll do whatever they can to maintain control. So here's what's going on here. You have been under their spell for a long period of time. And they started off with this love bombing, and then they went into devaluing, and then back to love bombing, devaluing, back to love bombing. And during that process, they were sort of grooming you, conditioning you. And they really thought that throughout that process that you would never really leave, even if they left you, that somehow you'd still sort of be under their control. And that's why even throughout the whole discard process, they're still trying to love bomb you in some way, the hoovering you and all that sort of thing. So when you first go no contact, that will hurt them. I mean, when you first start throwing up those boundaries, that will definitely hurt them. When they start to realize, whoa, maybe things are shifting, maybe things are different than they used to be, that's definitely going to hurt them. And they may not let on right away. They may posture. They may start to act like, bring it on. They may act like they're not hurt. I mean, a lot of times they'll say, oh, go ahead, try it. They may say, I don't really care. They may say, I saw what you filed, and that's just a bunch of crap, or whatever it is that they're saying to you. It may seem like you're not getting to them, but I'm telling you, when you go no contact or you start throwing up those boundaries, it's definitely going to hurt. Whenever you're cutting off a supply source, it definitely hurts. And let me tell you something else. If you are providing some sort of grade A level supply source to them, meaning adulation, compliments, money, sex, some sort of supply source to them that they really, really love. The reason why they won't let you go during the discard phase, whether it's a divorce situation or a business situation, whether you're walking away from them as a colleague, a business partner, whatever it is, they don't want to let you go because they're trading that grade A diamond level source of supply for that lower level supply source now. And so they're going to try to just manipulate you and make you squirm and make your life generally miserable because they get supply from that now too. So when you're taking away your supply, that going no contact and taking your attention away from them, it definitely does hurt them. So that's number one. And number two, if you're walking away from them while they're still love bombing you, that really hurts them. So if they are in full on, I think I am really being charming, and you're really not falling for it anymore, that will really hurt them. So if it's a love bomb move or a Hoover move, like they think that they are in that mode where you always fell for it before and you're really not falling for it this time, that will hurt them even more because that's their move. That's the one thing that you've always gone for. You've gone no contact, but now they're going back to the well of what worked before, or maybe it's a future fake. Maybe it's, come on, things are going to be better. The past is the past. Look to the future. I promise everything will be different. I'll be the person that you always wanted. I'll do the therapy or whatever it is. If it's business, I'll start doing all the things that they always knew that they were supposed to do. And I remember when I was in a business relationship with this other person who was a narcissist, all of a sudden this person started doing all of those things. And I remember just thinking it was actually insulting because I remember thinking, oh, so you knew you were supposed to be doing those things and now you're going to do them. No, thank you. Now I just really want to be done with this. But anyway, walking away from them while they're in that love bomb phase or while they're in their charm phase is super hurtful for them. That will definitely hurt them. And if, by the way, if you want to know more about what love bombing is, you can definitely check out my video on what love bombing is. I have a Narcissism 101 series of videos. There's a whole series that you can check out. But Narcissism 101, love bombing is one of those videos that you can check out. Let me just tell you, if they are doing that, just keep walking. And I want you to put that in the comments. Just remind yourself right now, just keep walking. Put that in the comments right now. Just keep walking. Last one is being the first to leave before they've lined up new supply, because they want to make sure that they've got new supply, better supply, something to, I'll show you that I've got better supply, new supply, something that kind of shows you that I won, because they want to be able to have gotten something to fill that hole, fill that gap, which of course it is that black hole that's never filled. But they want to be able to show you that they were able to do it, show you that they've got something better, show you that they've got something that will beat you down, because they get supply from being competitive and devaluing you and all that sort of thing. So that will hurt them too. You've moved on before they were able to do that, before you were able to secure that supply, because they weren't able to control the situation. They weren't able to control the damage. They weren't able to make the decisions and, control their kingdom. And they feel entitled to be able to do that. So if you were able to move on before they were able to do that, then that will bother them too. They're very, very insecure people. So they weren't able to get to it before you were. So those are the three things that I think hurt the narcissist the most, or exposing them in some way because they feel exposed, exposing their diamond level supply, showing, who they truly are, showing their true colors, exposing them to the world for who they truly are. That hurts the narcissist clearly the most of all things, for sure. So let's talk about what that narcissist hates. I mean, there's a lot that we can't stand about them, right? I mean, their behavior toward people is just so heinous and awful. It's really hard to believe that they can do a lot of the things that they do. I mean, you find yourself wondering, how do they even sleep at night? And if you want to know how they sleep at night, check out my video on how does a narcissist sleep at night, and you'll find out more about that. When you're dealing with a narcissist, you want to know what they can't stand. So let's talk about what's going on with a narcissist so that you can understand what it is that they hate. So narcissists were traumatized at some point in their childhoods. And yes, they became wounded, but no, you can't save them. Please don't try. They cannot be rehabilitated, and nothing you can do, say, be, or whatever will ever fix them. They're beyond repair. Yes, it's sad. Yes, that child was wounded. That child is gone. They are now adults. They are now adults who should be taking responsibility for their behavior. They don't. They are pathological liars. And if you want to know more about how a narcissist behaves when they get caught in a lie, check out my video on what happens when you catch a narcissist in a lie. They just can't deal with the real world the same way we do. They don't see the world the way we do. The problem that we have as either empathic people or even just normal, reasonable people is that we constantly are trying to think about the why of what they're doing and why are they behaving that way, or what can we do to get them to change or behave differently. And the thing that is like kind of like was the biggest aha moment for me is understanding that there's nothing that you can do that you're ever going to understand the behavior. There's nothing that you can learn other than learning from videos like this that will just tell you that they're really actually one of the easiest personalities to understand. They're very simple. The only thing that they care about and the only thing that drives them is something called narcissistic supply. And in my Narcissism 101 series, I actually talk about all the basic terminology of narcissism, and I do have a video specifically on narcissistic supply, so you're going to want to check that out. But they're just constantly needing that narcissistic supply. Everything they do is wrapped up in that. And narcissistic supply is anything that feeds a narcissist's ego. So it can be normal things that feed everybody's ego, like, you know, somebody telling them that they look good, or that they're really smart, or that they did a great job on something. I mean, obviously, all people want to feel seen, heard, and know that we matter. So it's kind of like on a continuum, you know, where all humans feel that way, but most humans also have the capacity to be humble, take responsibility for themselves and their mistakes, have compassion and feeling of empathy and love and care for other people. They don't have that ability. So they are just all the way to the pathological end of the spectrum, where clinically they just cannot have any feelings of care, love, compassion, or empathy for other people. So what they hate is going to be all wrapped up in their what's interrupting their supply source. So the number one thing that they hate is boundaries. They hate boundaries because they feel entitled. They feel that you belong to them. Anything that you have belongs to them, that you should never put up boundaries against them. And so they absolutely hate when you do that, but it is absolutely necessary that you are doing that. So if you are doing that, and if you're ready to do that, or you want to do that, give me a boundaries in the comments right now. I want to hear about your boundaries. I want to hear about how you're doing it. I want to hear about how you're going to do it. If you're having trouble putting up boundaries, I want to hear about that in the comments as well. But anyway, that's the number one thing that they hate. In no particular order, by the way. I'm just kind of going through some of these things, but one of the things that they hate is boundaries. The second thing that they hate is not being in control. They spend an inordinate amount of their time trying to be in control. A lot of the things that they do, including even saying I love you, is to try to get control over you. And if you want to know more about what a narcissist really means when they say I love you, check out my video on what does a narcissist mean when they say I love you. But they really want to be in control at all times. And when they start to lose control, that's when you start to see them, you know, when you start to see them losing their grip, they can start acting very crazily, very, you know, that narcissistic rage can come flying out, that narcissistic injury gets triggered. And that's when you see the, you know, Mr. Hyde side of the Dr. Jekyll personality come flying out. And it's usually not pretty. And I teach negotiation skills, and I teach specifically on how to negotiate with a narcissist and how to create strategy and leverage around dealing with that narcissist. And one of the ways that you know, are creating that leverage is looking at their forms of supply and how you can interrupt those forms of supply. And so when they start to lose control, I teach people to just be ready for them to start going a little bit nutso, because they're always the worst, by the way, right before they're ready to give up. And the not so secret is that you're actually the stronger one. You're actually the one
who is more normal and who's in control and who is stronger. And they know that, by the way. They just don't want you to know that. So number 2 is they absolutely hate to lose control. Number 3 is being exposed. They don't want people to see who they really are. They don't want people to know that maybe they're not as smart as they think they are. Maybe they don't want to get caught in lies. They don't want people to see that they've made mistakes. I actually had a narcissistic employee one time who every time, she wasn't showing up for work or she wasn't doing her work that she was supposed to, it was always someone else's fault and some other reason. She could never take responsibility. And because narcissists hate to be exposed, they do not want that to happen. So that's number 3. Number 4 is imperfections, or you pointing out any imperfections on them. They want the world to believe that they are absolutely perfect in every way. So, looks, smarts, their work product, how they are at home, how they are as a husband, wife, mother, father, sister, brother, friend, whatever. They have to be perfect in every single way. And if you just, even the slightest slight will cause them to go crazy. And by the way, narcissists hear slights, and tones in your voice, like dogs hear whistles. They just go crazy, even if there's nothing there. Even if you didn't mean anything, there they are getting upset, so they don't want you to point out any imperfections on their part. And the last thing that they hate, I kind of alluded to a little bit earlier, but that is themselves. They have a deep, deep sense of self-hatred. Sometimes it's so subconscious that even they don't realize that it's there. Or maybe they do, but they just don't want the world to see it. And they certainly don't want you to see it. They don't want anybody to see it. But deep down inside, they really do hate themselves and know you can't fix it and know they can't get better. And yes, it happened in childhood, and yes, they were wounded as children, but you can't fix it now. They are all grown up and they can't get better. Unfortunately, the best thing you can do is start to, as we said in number 1, create those boundaries and go no contact.
Okay, so let's talk about what will make a narcissist panic. So first of all, let's think about what a narcissist actually is. A narcissist is a person that has no inner sense of value. They have to get all of their value from external sources in the form of what we call narcissistic supply. And if you want to know more about narcissistic supply, definitely check out my video on that topic. But basically, they're like what I call the hollow chocolate Easter bunnies. They've got nothing going on the inside. They look really pretty on the outside, but nothing going on inside. And so they kind of try to layer on everything from the external. They're sucking the life out of every person and interaction and situation that they possibly can to try to make themselves feel like they have some value. And it's like a black hole, basically, of course. You can never get them to be fulfilled or feel satisfied. And so they look at every person and every situation as an opportunity for getting that supply. They literally, like sharks, seeing blood in the water. Oh, they smell it and boom, there they are. They're after it. So they're looking for it in every possible way. But what's really going on is because they have no inner sense of value, they're kind of like living this double life all the time. Like there's this inner scared little child that they're constantly trying to like protect. And then there's the person that they want the world to think that they are. They want the world to believe that they are. They need endless adulation. They need endless attention. And, what's interesting to me is like the massive irony of treating somebody poorly throughout an entire relationship, whether it's business or personal, and than being shocked and disgusted when you no longer want to be in the relationship with them. It's like so ironic, isn't it? But anyway, if you want to start thinking about ways to make them panic, especially in a negotiation setting, because that will start to give you leverage over them in that negotiation, then just think of it in terms of the supply, right? What is giving them supply? Is it compliments, prestige, attention, adulation, respect? Or is it controlling you, degrading you, manipulating the process, intimidating you? All of those things gives a narcissist supply. Okay, so the first thing that first secret to making them panic is to stop interacting with them. If you just stop interacting with them, or at least on an emotional level, then you will start to make them panic, because they'll think, oh, why are they not coming back? Because they goad you, they trigger you, they throw barbs out there because they want you to come back. They want you to get into it. I remember there was somebody that, we used to know who was a narcissist, and the guy would be like saying all kinds of insulting things to people. And then he'd go, now we're having a conversation. And you think, no, now I'm like really annoyed with you. But that's to a narcissist, that's having a conversation. So number one is stop interacting with them. Number two is not to fight back directly. You will want to fight back, but you must do it in a way that's super strategic. Okay. And I talk more about that in my video on creating leverage over narcissists and negotiations. I've also talked about it in my video called Slay Your Negotiation with a Narcissist, which is also the name of my program, of course. So I just want you to start thinking about, yes, you do need to fight back with them, but you must do it in a way that's super strategic, okay? So the next thing is, when you talk about leverage and creating leverage over the narcissist, you are going to want to threaten a source of narcissistic supply that's more important for them to protect than the supply that they get from making your life miserable. So threatening to expose them in some way, threatening to make them look bad in front of judges or other people that they don't want to know, like, their bad stuff out there. That's why they try to get at you before you get to them, because they don't want you to expose them. Okay, so the next thing that you can do is just totally act like you don't care. I mean, like they're doing stuff and you're just like, oh, I'm whatever. I mean, you can do whatever you want. Just so, oh, how's the weather today? Just completely like it didn't even happen. They did whatever they did to try to get a rise out of you, and you just act like you don't care. That sends them and drives them absolutely crazy, because now they up the ante. I've often said they're like 2-year-olds having a tantrum on the floor. You give in to them, and then the next time they think, okay, I'll just cry louder, scream more, kick harder, act worse, and then mom and dad will give in. And that's why I always say they're the worst right before they're ready to give up, because they act like that until finally they realize, oh, they're not giving in this time, so I just have to give up. And so that's what's really going on with a narcissist in a negotiation as well. And then the last one, of course, is going no contact or having super strong boundaries. You must do that. It will drive them crazy, but I'm telling you to do that, not just for, driving them insane and making them panic, but also for your own health and peace of mind. Now, if you are dealing with a narcissist, then that narcissist is probably driving you crazy, or actually maybe even feeling like insane. And you're thinking, is there any way to make them panic? Yes, there is. But first, let me just go through a couple of the things that they do to you, because it's important to understand that so that you can understand the flip side of it and what makes them panic. So a couple of their go-to things are things like gaslighting. Gaslighting is trying to make you think that you're crazy.
And what they do is they'll say, oh, we talked about that, or don't you remember that, or no, that's not how that went. Something like that. And shifting what they said, shifting what you guys talked about, shifting what you said, so that it meets their agenda, which is to manipulate you and to make you think that you're crazy. So gaslighting is definitely one of their favorite tactics. Another one of their favorite tactics is lying. They are total pathological liars. The crazy thing I think about narcissists is that they'll lie about stuff that they don't even need to lie about. You think to yourself, why are you lying about that? You don't even need to lie about that. But the thing is that narcissists think that they need to manipulate everything. They don't believe that they can get anything just in a normal way. They feel like they have to lie. So they will lie about even things that are readily verifiable, which is the thing that's pretty crazy. And in a lot of my other videos, I talk about making sure that you document everything that you do, because they will eventually contradict themselves. They will eventually put things in writing that are completely contradictory to what is actually happening or what they have said before. Now, they'll have some explanation for it, but that doesn't mean that you won't eventually be able to use it against them. Okay, so number two thing that they do on a very regular basis is lie. The third thing they try to do a lot of is intimidation tactics. So what I mean by that is that they will constantly try to make you be afraid. So they intimidate you in all sorts of ways. You're afraid that they're going to hurt you. They're afraid they're going to expose you. You're afraid that they're going to take your kids. They're very, very, very good at figuring out what your weaknesses are, what means the most to you, and that's what they'll go for. So if you're a mother and you don't want to lose your kids, they'll say, I'm taking the kids and you'll never see your kids again. If you are dependent upon this person for support, they'll say, I'm going to take everything and leave you in the street. If you want money from this person, then they'll use that against you. So whatever they can use against you, they will, and they'll scare you into thinking like, oh my God, my life is going to be so terrible if I cross this person. And there's all different types of intimidation tactics that they use. Some are more violent than others. If they're more of a malignant type of narcissist, some of them are a little bit more stealth if they're like a covert narcissist. But all narcissists use the same kinds of tactics. For the most part, gaslighting is definitely one, lying is definitely one as well, and intimidating you in some ways is one as well. And another thing that they often try to do is triangulate. This is where they get their flying monkeys involved, and they get you to believe that all these other people have lined up a side by side with them, supporting them. And if you cross this person or you come out and try to expose them in some way, then you're going to be the one that looks crazy, and you're going to be the one that looks insane, or you'll lose all your friends, because everybody believes that this person is absolutely wonderful. And so obviously you're the one that must be insane. So the term flying monkeys comes back from the Wizard of Oz, and it was when the Wicked Witch had her flying monkeys on her side. And that's what narcissists do. They all do it. They all try to make you think that they're like so close to all these other people. And so therefore you shouldn't come out and try to say anything bad about this person because everybody else thinks this person is amazing. These are just a few of the things that they do. If this is all sounding all too familiar to you, go ahead and give me a totally in the comments. And if you are dealing with these things with the narcissist, which I'm sure you are, make sure you check out my video on self-care when coping with a narcissist. I will drop a link to that below. You want to make sure that you're taking care of yourself when you're dealing with a narcissist. I'm sure all these things sound really familiar to you, but in the end, okay, great. What can you do about it? So here's the not so secret about narcissists. That is that they are actually the most scaredy cats on the planet. They have no sense of inner value. I've often said they're like the chocolate Easter bunnies that are hollow inside. They have no sense of internal value whatsoever. So they've got to go and get all of their sense of value from the external. And that's what we call narcissist supply. It's in the form of compliments, money, prestige, whatever it is that they can get to get attention for themselves on the external. But the thing is, they're super afraid. So if you push back on them enough, they will back down. So what causes a narcissist to panic, to feel stunned? Number one, brutal honesty. They expect, because they're pathological liars, that most people lie too. They really just expect that everybody else is just as bad as they are. They don't understand what it's like to be a normal person. They've never been one, so they don't get that. They don't get that people out there actually have integrity. They understand the concept of it, but they just really don't believe that anybody else has it. So if you're just brutally honest with them, it kind of stuns them and they're not exactly sure what to do with that. So for example, like if they, a covert narcissist is all often sick. That's one of the things that they do. They have this whole shtick that they're unwell in some way, they can't work or whatever it is. There's always some reason to feel sorry for the covert narcissist. And so, if one day they're super sick and then the next day they show up at something fun, something that they want to actually be involved in, because of course they don't want to miss out on getting attention for themselves, just without any kind of sarcasm or attitude or whatever, just say, "Oh, I'm so surprised that you're here. You said you were so sick yesterday." And you have to be careful, because if you say with any kind of tone whatsoever, they're like super sensitive. They can, they can sense it no matter what level of sarcasm it is. They'll feel it, they'll sense it. Even if it's not there, they might think it's there. So just make sure you're really saying it like as if you're reporting the news. I always say, like, just the facts, ma'am, right? Just, "Oh, I'm surprised you're here. You said you were so sick yesterday." They won't know what to do with that. So brutal honesty is number one. Okay, number two is pushing back. This is something that they don't expect, especially if you are used to giving in and acquiescing to whatever it is that they want. They will be really surprised, and it will make them panic if you push back against them. If they start to realize this person they thought they had total control over is no longer listening to everything that they do or doing everything that they say or buying into everything that they're selling, it will stun them and it will start to panic them a little bit, because they'll be going, "What's going on here? Why is this person pushing back against me?" Something like that. Okay. So that's number two. Okay, and number three is exposing them. They do not want to be exposed for any reason whatsoever. If you really want to throw a narcissist into panic mode, let them think that they're going to be exposed, or actually expose them. If their flying monkeys find out who they really are, or if somebody that they respect gets to see some side of them that they don't want seen, then that's a really huge way to make a narcissist panic. So for example, in a mediation situation, if you know something about the narcissist that they don't want the other side to know, you might subtly say, like, that fact is going to come out. In my world, it could be that the person has a sexually transmitted disease and they are a doctor in the community. They probably don't want the world to know that. So especially if they got it by cheating on you and everything else. So sometimes, not going to court can be a huge motivator for a narcissist. It can really make them panic if they think that, the world is going to see things about them that they have taken painstaking efforts to hide and make sure nobody else knows. So number three is exposing them. Okay, and number 4 is losing control in any way. So remember what we talked about, that they're the most scared people on the planet. They're really like the bullies, you know. You know how in A Christmas Story, that old movie, that, you know, the little boy fought back against the bully and then the bully ended up running away. You know, you're really just figuring out what their level is, and they're doing the same thing to you, by the way. So every time you push back a little bit against them, they'll act up even more. They'll do more of their lying, more of their control tactics, more of their intimidation, more of their narcissistic rage. It will spurn them because they'll think, okay, I just need to clamp down a little bit harder against this person so that they'll behave and get back under my layer of control. Or they might start love bombing again and then devaluing, love bomb, devalue. They'll start, you know, doing this campaign of love bombing again because they're trying to get you back into their layer of control. They're panicking. So losing control is something that really sends them into a tizzy. The reason they do all the things that they do, gaslighting, manipulation, lying, all the things that I talked about at the beginning of this video, is because they're trying to assert control over you because they are so insecure underneath. And the way that you can make them panic is by having them lose some of that control. And, you know, just like if you have a 2-year-old that has a tantrum, they're conditioning the parents. It's like, okay, if I scream loud enough, if I have enough of a tantrum here, if I cry loud enough, then mommy and daddy will give me what I want. And if you give in, as a parent to that child, then they'll know next time I just need to scream louder, I just need to scream longer, and eventually they'll give in to what I want. So what the narcissist is doing is trying to figure out, at what level do I need to act at to get this person back into my layer of control. And if you know, give into that, then they know I just need to be that much louder, that much more awful next time in order to get this person to come back to my layer of control. So if you really want to make a narcissist panic, let them realize that you're no longer buying in to that stuff. When they start losing control, that's when they super panic.
So let's talk about the 12 things that narcissists just never do, because they are very, very insecure, like to the max. They have no inner sense of value. They have to suck it all from the whole world in the form of narcissistic supply. And so there's just certain things that they just, because they're just so scared inside, that they're just simply not going to do. It makes them feel like they're losing whatever little sense of self that they absolutely have. And so they feel like they need to protect it. They live in a world of scarcity and survival, almost as if they're like out in the wilderness or something. I mean, they don't think about it that way, but that's how they are. I mean, the big secret is that you are actually the more powerful one. You're actually the one that has the value. They attach themselves to you because you have so much value. If you didn't, they wouldn't think that you're a good source of supply. That's the big, huge gaslight that they do on you. They make you think you're the one that's devalued, and it's really the opposite, right? So let's talk about the 12 things that they don't do. Number one is they do not show their true selves. They can't do that. There's just no way for them. You know, they really live in this world of like, there's this little inner self, and then there's like the self that they show people. It's a very much a dichotomy. I always think of that Billy Joel song, The Stranger, where he's like, you know, we all have a self that we hide away, but they really do. It's like no one ever sees. So that's number one. They don't show their true selves. Number two is that they just don't have any security in their relationship. So they don't trust whoever it is that they're with, because they can't show their true self. So there's really no security in any of their relationships at all. They don't trust anyone. They really can't have like true connection, which is sad, but it's not your responsibility. So number three, they don't want to be seen as the bad guy. So they'll do whatever they need to to take everybody else down first. And that's why when you see the demise of the relationship, when it starts to go downhill, you start to see the birth of the smear campaign, because they want to make sure they're going to get you before you get them. With narcissists, things are very black and white. You're either for them or against them. Things are fantastic or they're horrible. A person is amazing or they're worthless. And so once you have shown your cards that you're no longer for them, then in their minds you're against them and you have become public enemy number one. And the slightest little slight is grounds for war sometimes. So that's number three. They'll just never allow themselves to be portrayed as the bad person. So number four is they don't want to lose control. They'll do whatever they need to maintain control over the situation, even lie, manipulate, cheat, steal, take other people down, burn things on their way out. It doesn't really matter, but they'll do whatever they need to try to maintain control of a situation. I had a mediation one time where the guy came in and he was like demanding that he get the dog back from their adult daughter before he would even start mediating. And it was like his way of establishing that I'm in control of this situation, that I'm running this mediation. Because, what were we going to do with the dog? Make him sit in the car, have him be in the office? I mean, it was a completely ludicrous demand, but it was to establish that he was the one in control. The next one is they certainly do not say sorry unless they need to. They will use apologies in a certain way to try to manipulate, to try to get what they want. Some never say sorry at all. They just can't bring themselves to do that. But if you want to know more about what a narcissist means when they're apologizing, when they're saying sorry, and how they're using that, make sure you check out my video on that topic. I have a whole video on that. All right, so the next one is they don't allow people to prove them wrong. I mean, even if you show them proof, you've got a text message, you've got an email, you said this, or this happened, or this was, they'll somehow figure out a way to like wrangle it around so that they're not wrong. Maybe find some shred of something to spin so that they're not wrong. The next one is they don't see others as equals. I mean, they always have to be looking down if possible. They're just not going to see others as equal. That's part of building themselves up so that they can feel more powerful than other people. The next one is they don't have sympathy. They just can't feel what you're feeling. It's just, I kind of liken it to having like a really horrible toothache. When you have a terrible toothache, all you can feel is like your own pain. And you kind of know other things are going on out there, but it doesn't really register. And that's because that's what's going on with them. They're only, for themselves. They're extremely broken, hurt people. And so they just can't have sympathy or empathy for other people. The next thing is that they don't do anything that doesn't benefit them. So there's got to be some reason that they're going to do something for someone. What am I getting out of this situation? They're not going to just do something just to do something. I mean, that whole anonymous donor thing or altruistic tendencies, whatever, they don't have that. That doesn't even like register on their Richter scale. So they definitely don't do anything that doesn't benefit them. And if you think I'm so spot on so far, give me a spot on in the comments. All right. So the next one is that they do not listen. I mean, they just hear the words coming out of your mouth, but it's not registering to them as far as like taking it in, hearing what you're saying, being able to provide feedback, being able to have that empathetic listening, all that sort of thing. They can't do it. It's not possible. They don't listen. The next one is they don't really give compliments. Now, They will if they think that it's going to benefit them in some way. Oh, you're doing great or whatever. But maybe they're saying these things because they want this person to work harder, to be their friend, to, whatever it is. I mean, there's always some manipulation to it. And then once you are in their little web of control, then it becomes like backhanded compliments, like, oh, you're doing pretty good for someone who sucked at this, or, you're losing some weight for somebody who's, obese or whatever. I mean, like they'll just kind of weave in the compliment with also a backhanded diss at you. So that's the next one. So charming, right? Okay, the next one is they won't let anyone look better than them. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying before about taking you down before you take them down. And so that's actually the key, by the way, to negotiating with them. You have to understand that more than anything, they want to make sure they look better, that their image is preserved, that they don't get exposed. And so when you are creating your leverage in your negotiations, that's the thing that you need to think about. A lot of people think that it's money that motivates them. Money can be a factor, but more than anything, image is the thing that you're going to want to be thinking about when you're creating your negotiation strategy.
So now let's talk about whether narcissists are stupid or clever. It's a very complicated question. And it was actually posed to me during a dinner with some friends. And my friend is a psychologist, and she's worked with a lot of narcissists, or people who have, more so people who have been victims or targets of narcissists and had to deal with the trauma of it and try to heal from it. And so it was a question that I decided to sort of research and dig into a little bit, because I was kind of curious about the answer myself. So one of the things for sure about narcissists is that they're very, very good at reading people. They are masters at reading people and reading their emotions and reading what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, what they want, what they don't want, because it's really, really critical for them to be able to do that so that they can determine if you are going to be a good source of supply for them. And that narcissistic supply is the most important part of what it is that they're looking for from anybody. Every single person that they look at is going to be viewed in terms of what kind of supply can you give to me? And this includes, their children, unfortunately. I've known a lot of adults of who've been victims of their parents being narcissists, which is no fun, and it's really, really hard to get over. So I just decided I'm going to look into this because I know that they're really, really good at reading people and manipulating people. So one of the things that I learned actually by reading a blog from a narcissist was the reason why, so what she said in this particular blog was the reason why she was really good at reading people was because she had to learn how to read her own parents, who were both narcissists. And as a child, 5, 6, 7 years old, is this a good time to talk to them? Is it not? Is this a good time to ask them for something? Is it not? Am I going to get yelled at right now? Am I not? What kind of mood are they in? So they were constantly having to read the situation around them. So I thought that was a really fascinating explanation as to why they're actually very, very good at reading people, because, everything that I've learned, everything that I've read, everything that I've studied about narcissism says that it happens sometime in the narcissist's childhood. So at some point in their lives, they didn't get the love or support or care that they needed, and they determined that the world is a bad place, that they had to survive, and the only way that they could do that is through getting the narcissistic supply that they need to feed that ego. And that's just, anything that feeds their ego, and it's a black hole. You make deposits into it and never comes back out. So, the relationship always feels very unsatisfying with them because you're really not ever getting your emotional needs met. And that's because they really do not have the ability to meet your emotional needs. They're not even meeting their own. So, you can't get something from someone that they don't even have for themselves. And so that's what's really going on with them, and why they are really, really good at reading people. So I think that they're very masters at manipulating. They're very good at that. And so I think it's more of, and this is just my speculation, I think it's more that they have a skill at manipulating than more so than they're so smart. Now, some of them actually probably have high IQs, some of them don't, but that you can have low or high or middle average IQ narcissist, at any level. But I think that they are certainly masters at manipulating. And that's why I always talk about ethically manipulating the manipulator and creating that leverage and that strategy that you need in order to get what you want out of negotiating with the narcissist. And that's what I teach you how to do. So as far as whether or not they're smart, stupid, clever, whatever, the other thing that is really important to understand about narcissists is they do end up self-destructing. They do oftentimes collapse. And if you want to know more about what a narcissist collapse looks like, it's not pretty. Make sure you check out my video on what happens when a narcissist collapses. And they do end up self-destructing. They do end up, when they start to get desperate, they start doing things that aren't as smart. They start making mistakes. They start, going into their rages and having their, attacking and getting worse. And I often say that they do get worse before they get better. It gets worse when you're dealing with them. And when you're starting to create your strategy and surround them, what I teach you how to do is actually surround them in a silent fashion where they don't even know that it's happening until they kind of wake up and realize that they're surrounded or that they're backed into a corner. So what I teach you how to do is actually do that, surround them so that they feel like they have no other place to go. And you do that by creating a super strong strategy and invincible leverage. So that's what's the most important thing to understand when you're negotiating with them. And if you are so ready to win against the narcissist, give me a win in the comments. So when you're dealing with them, sometimes they just seem dumb because they don't understand how to have compassion for another human being. They're not that great oftentimes at understanding, how to express emotion. I mean, sometimes I look at narcissists and I think, you'd actually be better served if you would at least pretend like you care a little bit, because then the other person feels a little bit heard, a little bit like they are valued, and would be more willing to give in a little bit. But, sometimes they kind of seem dumb when they don't know how to act in an emotional setting. So, they're really, really smart in a lot of ways, and they're really, really smart and cunning and clever at how they are able to get people to do things, and how they're able to control people and get you to believe things. I mean, gaslighting and things like that. And, you're looking at evidence right in front of your face of certain things, and you question it and you go, well, maybe they're right. Maybe their explanation is okay. They're very good at manipulating what it is that is being said, heard, or done, and coming up with an immediate explanation for things because they've been doing it for so long. You know, there's a book called Outliers that I read a long time ago by Malcolm Gladwell that talks about how people need 10,000 hours of anything in order to achieve mastery at it. Well, they have way more than 10,000 hours. They've been doing this for years. I mean, since they were children. So they are really good at coming up with a quick explanation about something, or massaging the facts that you kind of go, well, I guess, okay. I mean, the example that comes to my mind is in the movie Dirty John, or that story about the man who was dating this woman, and he was a severely malignant narcissist, and he told her that he was a doctor, and he would wear his scrubs, and he would leave the house and go wherever he would go, and he'd come home and he was wearing the scrubs. And then her daughter found his diploma, and it turned out he was a nurse of some sort, a nurse anesthetist, I think, or something like that. And so when he was confronted with it, he said, well, I am a doctor. I have a doctorate. It's basically a doctor level of education. And so, I guess she didn't really like the explanation, but she kind of bought it, and she went with that. And he knew exactly what he was trying to say that he was, and, but when confronted with it, he had an immediate explanation for it. And I've seen that happen in court sometimes too, where I've had a case where, I was asking the husband on, cross-examination about his bank statements, and, how come you didn't put this bank account on this particular financial affidavit? Oh, I don't have that account anymore, it doesn't exist. And then 10 minutes later, he's referencing that account again, and he's got some explanation for it right away. Well, I forgot about it, or something like that. And you think, well, you just forgot about it from 10 minutes ago. But, and a lot of times they do that kind of thing, and you see people believing them. And it's really, really frustrating sometimes if you feel like the judge is believing them. Like, how come you didn't see that they just lied? Why didn't you just notice that? And those are the kinds of things that can be really frustrating, especially when you're dealing with a narcissist in any kind of a litigation or negotiation situation. And that's why it's really, really important to understand these concepts. If you're trying to negotiate with a narcissist and you don't understand the concepts, or you don't understand how a narcissist thinks, especially in negotiation, then you're going to be dead in the water. Because when it comes time to negotiate with you, or any kind of discard phase when you're saying goodbye, the narcissist feels like they need to destroy you. And if you want to know more about that, check out my video on why the narcissist needs to destroy you to leave you. But that's what happens at the end of the relationship. And so when you're going to negotiate with them, sometimes it feels like they're really, really smart, but oftentimes they're actually really, really dumb too. And so just understanding that and knowing that you're actually the stronger one for sure. I've often said they didn't attach themselves to you because you have so little value. They attached themselves because you have so much value, because they knew they could get a lot of supply out of you. They're not attaching themselves to anybody that they don't think that they can get a good amount of supply from. So, the key here is that you're no longer going to be a source of supply for this narcissist. They're going to have to get it from somewhere. Let them go get it from someone else. It doesn't have to be you.